Welcome to FPB's Meet the Candidates. This Cable 10 series allows you, the voter, to hear directly from our candidates about issues that are important to our community. This is all leading up to the general election, where early voting starts on October 13th and goes up to Election Day on November 3rd. For our interviews, we took questions from the community via social media and email. We're going to talk about the shakeup in city government, how COVID is affecting our community, confronting social injustices on the local level, and much more. So we have a lot to talk about, so we better jump right in with today's guest. It's Layne Wilkerson, and he is a candidate for mayor. Hey, Layne, why don't you tell us about yourself and why you're running for mayor?
Okay, thanks, Cathy. And Layne Wilkerson, and I'm running for mayor because I care about Frankfort's future, and I feel like the next few years are critical. And one of the reasons I'm running is I want to make Frankfort a more prosperous place for people of all ages. And to do that, we need to make sure we're on a sound financial footing. And again, next few years are critical. And I want to minimize the effects of the COVID-19 crisis. I think that's number one priority. And then we can move forward to issues of growth, either economic or population. And then we can look to diversify our economy away from state government. And really, we need to revitalize our entire city, not just downtown, but east and west sides as well. And one of the ways we're going to recruit new people to Frankfort is focusing on our quality of life issues. I think that, you talk about safety, or you talk about recreation or schools, you need to focus on that. And then to do all that, we can't do it alone. We're going to have someone who can cooperate with others and bring people together. And I think building bridges among many individuals and multiple groups, I think that's a skill that I'm strongly suited for.
Excellent. So why don't you tell us what kind of previous experience you have that you think will lend to being a good mayor?
I'm a financial planner by trade. I have a business. I work with several hundred clients, and over the years, I've worked with many hundred clients, diverse clients, different backgrounds. And I think knowing how to listen to people, building empathy, and actually you can be born with that too. I think working well with others, and knowing how to, again, like I said, bridge different groups, different individuals, bringing people together. I do that every day in my business. And then also explaining concepts that may be foreign to people. I think putting it in plain English, I think I can do that, and showing people the vision on what their future is going to look like and how do we get there, building manageable steps to get there. And I think also serving on several nonprofit boards here locally, leading them. I've led 3 different nonprofit organizations, knowing how to, again, manage a group and let everyone be heard and feel important, and then ultimately accomplish a task.
Okay.
That's what the city needs right now.
Yeah, okay. So since we last spoke, the city commission has fired our city manager, Keith Parker. So why can't Frankfort keep a city manager on a long-term basis?
That's a good question. I do think a city manager form of government works. If you look at many of the second-class cities here in Kentucky, most of them do have city manager form of governments. And if you look at a couple of them, they're doing very well. So others seem to make it work. And I do think, if it's an issue of a strong city manager versus a strong mayor form of government, I think you can still have a city manager that's running the day-to-day, who is the executive, that's running the HR, the finances, everything. And then the mayor could be out in front and being the face of the government and setting the policy and being the ambassador and being the advocate. I think you can have both. You can have a strong city manager and a strong mayor, and that's what I intend to do. I think there's a role for both, and I intend to stick to my lane and do what I know best, and that's promoting Frankfort and setting the vision.
Okay. So how do you think the city commission should handle the search and hiring for a new city manager? Do you think the current leadership should go ahead and fill that position, or should they wait until the new city leadership is in place to choose a new city manager?
They should definitely wait. And I think, if they want to go ahead and start the search, that's fine, and get that ball rolling. I think, time is of the essence, but I do not think it is. I think it is to the next commission and the mayor to actually make the selection, because of course we're the ones who we're going to have to work with that person for the next 4 years. But I do think that, that it is imperative that they start the search and get that ball rolling and not put that on the next city commission.
So what do you think the city commission should look for in a new city manager?
Well, obviously, I'd love to have someone with city manager experience. I think that would be ideal. And someone who does, it'd be great to have somebody with a lot of experience coming in here. But I do realize that if they looked at our past history and if they looked at the situation with a new city commission and a new mayor coming in, maybe they'd be apprehensive. But I think first and foremost, experience running a similar size city. And I think that's number one. And then if not that, then some experience in an executive role managing people. And that's number one.
Okay. So this has been a troubling issue, hot button issue in the community. So if elected, what would you suggest the mayor do and city commission do to boost public confidence in government?
I think number one is transparency and making sure that decisions and all the processes that we go through are open and allowing people to have input. And that's one of the things I would like to do is have more, I don't know if town hall is the right word, but having more open sessions like that around the county or around the city where we're seeking input, and we're also bringing our leadership of the various departments to the people so that they can ask questions directly, because people aren't going to show up to every city hall meeting or work session, and a lot of people just don't want to do that. But I think if we come to the people and reach out and say, okay, what are the issues? I think if people have input, they're going to feel more confident in the decisions that we make.
Okay. So would you support the appointment of a citizens advisory committee that would be tasked with the identification of opportunities to improve the function of city government, its overall structure, and the roles and responsibilities of both appointed and elected managers?
I would be open to that, and I would support it with caveats, I guess, that I would not want it to slow down the search for a new city manager. I don't want it to slow down that search, but of course, any ideas, particularly if these are volunteer citizens that feel strongly enough that they want to improve government, of course, that I'm all for that. I don't have all the right ideas. I think we're open to other suggestions as well. So absolutely.
Okay. We'll move on to our next topic. As of this week, Frankfort has reported more than 500 positive cases of COVID-19. Do you feel like city leadership has taken an effectively aggressive role in helping our community slow the spread? And is there anything more the city can do?
Well, I think there's always more we can do in terms of getting the word out, and maybe, I don't know if it's public service announcements or I don't know what it is, but we need to set the example that I do think wearing masks does help the economy and it helps save lives. You can reverse that if it saves lives first. That's number one. But I think if you want to look at it another way, it also helps the economy. And I think we need to do more to help our small businesses. And that's one of the things I talked about, mitigating the effects of COVID-19 and the effects on city government. We need to stop the spread first, and that's number one. And I don't think we need, as a city, I don't know what we can do in terms of shutting things down. The governor controls a lot of that, but I do think we need to set the example and really encourage people to social distance and stay away from each other.
So 4 months ago, we discussed the looming economic crisis that would result from the pandemic. Now we're seeing the negative impact. You mentioned, small businesses. So if elected, what ideas do you have to deal with the economic crisis, and what kind of tough decisions do you know that are going to need to be made as far as the budget goes?
Well, starting with the budget, there's no doubt we're going to have that tough decisions because we've already seen a drop in occupational tax revenue. And I think that's where a money manager, that's what I do for a living, and evaluating what can we cut. And really, there's no good decisions in a situation like that. If you're looking at staffing, or if you're looking at services, that's the first thing you're going to look at is our services. People, we will see a drop there. And mitigating that for the short term, we will get through this eventually, but I think having someone who can see through this crisis, because we are going to come out of the other side. We got to take care of the short term, but also we got to look, 18 months out from now. We need to come out of this stronger, faster, more robust than our neighboring communities in Kentucky. We want to, in a way, it's an opportunity to get out in front of the other cities and bring more residents here and grow from here.
Okay. Well, beyond affecting our community's physical health and financial health, COVID-19 is also affecting the mental health of people. The CDC indicates that younger adults, racial and ethnic minorities, and essential workers are reporting having experienced disproportionately worse mental health outcomes, increased substance abuse, and elevated suicidal ideation. So what efforts can be taken at the local level to address these associated mental health conditions?
Talking about the services that we talked about before, we hate to cut services, but that's one of the critical things that we need to focus on. And I've talked about it before in relation to policing, and mental health services, dealing with, looking around town, if you talk about the homeless population and some of that is mental health. We need to, as a city, before COVID-19, we needed to invest more in the public health and the mental health. And I think that's one area we need to look at, is just investing more. And also everyone needs to be mindful of their neighbor. Right now, more than ever, we all need to come together and just take care of our neighbors until we get through this. And I think as a mayor, you can set that example and at least raise awareness. It can't all be city government. It can't all be taxpayer money. It has to be some of us volunteering our time and actually caring about one another more than we did before.
Okay. This summer, after the deaths of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, our country saw a rising movement in the calls for social justice. So my question to you on this subject is, do Black Lives matter?
Well, absolutely, they matter, and they and we do have to acknowledge that. You can't just say all lives matter and Black lives matter. Really, of course they all matter, but Black lives matter, and we have to acknowledge that there has been a discrepancy over however many years, centuries, and everyone needs to acknowledge that. And I do think as a community, we need to, again, raise awareness that we are aware of that and we're trying to make things right. It's a national issue and it's not going to be solved. If a mayor could solve that, if I could solve that, I'd win the Nobel Prize. But I think right now we need to at least raise the awareness that we're working to solve that. And we need to and set the tone in city government from the top down, that we are looking at the systemic racism that is apparent in our community and the country, and we're working to improve the lives of everyone, not just white, black, brown, everyone.
Okay, so how do you feel the city rates when it comes to effectively addressing social injustices?
Well, personally, of course, I'm looking at this from a different perspective. I think, pretty well, but I'm sure there's plenty of people that would disagree with that statement. So I think by the fact that we haven't been in the national news, that's not a great metric. But I think I do think that Frankfort has done better than others, but there's certainly room for improvement. I don't want that to be taken as that. I think that everything's A-okay. I think we're better than average. How about that?
Okay. In the early summer, a group of young activists sponsored a march up Capitol Avenue in support of the movement. So what can city leaders do to encourage more young people to get more civically engaged?
I was there, and my daughters and my whole family, we were part of that. And I think it was a great example of having several thousand people in one place. And there was, to my knowledge, not one report of any violence or looting or any kind of things that a lot of people want to associate with protests, quote unquote. And I think that, so I think, obviously we wish we had a government where there were protests weren't a thing or weren't needed. But I would encourage, I think just making people feel comfortable that they can. And these days with social media, it doesn't take much for people to start a movement. So I think that, just making people comfortable and young people, and particularly here in Frankfort, I want Frankfort to be seen as a place where everyone in Kentucky can come and live and feel comfortable living, and that we're welcoming of all people and all viewpoints. And that's what we do here. We bring creative types here, and we grow from that.
Okay. Well, we have downtown a big piece of land that everybody's focused on. So let's talk about the TIF for a minute. Can you explain to our viewers how the TIF would work, and is it something that you support?
It is something I support, and for the record, I live downtown, and my office is downtown, and so I'm, of course, very interested in how this plays out. We have several acres that are undeveloped right now, and I don't think it needs to be a park. I think we need to have residential there first. We need more. One of my goals as mayor is to have population growth and economic growth, and the first step is to have places for people to live downtown, and that's one thing I'll make sure is a priority in parcels B and C. I do support the efforts to make this a TIF district. And there's certain caveats. We want to make sure that the city's not going to be encumbered financially for a long period of time. We want to make sure that the ultimate development is built the way we want it, and we want to make sure we have the things over there that we want. But a TIF district, to my understanding, is it's not this. This is not money that's going to go to the developer. It's going to go for the public infrastructure. It's going to go to the sidewalks. It's going to go to the parking garage. It's going to go to the landscaping. It's going to go to all the things that we as citizens are going to be using. It's not going to go into the developers' pockets. And really, it's only the increase in tax revenues from where they currently are.
Yeah. So I'll move on to the next topic. As funding has been reduced for Downtown Frankfort, Inc. and KCDC, do you think this minimizes the effectiveness of their missions to attract and support businesses in our community? And what can the city do to support these agencies?
When you talk about Downtown Frankfort and KCDC, KCDC is recruiting businesses into the community. And, I don't think it was a big budget cut. It wasn't, they didn't get eliminated, but it is a budget cut. So yes, it probably does affect their effectiveness. But I think with DFI, to my knowledge, that's not their role, is bringing businesses to the community. It is originally it was to administer the Main Street program, and I think there's areas there where we can look at closely, eliminate some overlapping responsibilities. We need accountability from both of the organizations, and as mayor, I'm going to look to do that and make sure that we are not having multiple people doing the same thing. And I think that's one of the issues that we have right now, and I think that's one of the issues that local governments now looked at when they decided to either eliminate funding or reduce the funding.
Okay. What are your recommendations to incentivize and attract new businesses to our community?
Oh, there's a host of things. I call it we need an incentive toolkit. I think we need a package of incentives. It's regulatory, it's tax, it's financial, it's technical assistance, it's design assistance. I think a lot of the things, if city government could, if you look at like developers, if the city government could go on and prepare a lot of the things in advance for a developer, where it's just plug and play, where all you have to do to come to Frankfort is, we've already taken care of a lot of legal, technical, and design issues, and all you have to do is you jump through the state hoops. Because I think a lot of people talk about it's so hard to do business in Frankfort, or it's so hard to do this in Frankfort. Now, some of those issues it's state regulatory things. We're going to make sure that the city regulatory issues are as little as possible. And I want to make sure that we want to make it easy to do business in Frankfort. I own a business here. For me, it was relatively easy, and I want to make sure the rest of the people that we want to have if you will, a concierge service for businesses. You contact that person, we step in and we do the rest of it for you. Because as far as I know, there's not that many people starting businesses or starting developments here. So it shouldn't be that hard for city government to have a concierge type service and take care of everyone who wants to open up a business here.
Okay. Ideas on growing our community is always a topic that citizens want to hear about from candidates. So in the past year, there's been a lot of discussion concerning preservation versus development. So some view those as in opposition when it comes to growth in Frankfort and Franklin County. How would you address the conflict and ensure growth in our community?
I think that's a narrative. I don't necessarily agree with the opposition. I do think if you look at cities like Charleston or Savannah or any of these historic cities, the reason that they have economic growth is because of their historic preservation. So obviously you can do both. And I think the main thing for us right now is bringing in residents to Frankfort and selling our quality of life and selling the scalability. I think that would be number one. I think, we want to make preservation, if you look at where there is a conflict, it's just in the special historic district. If you look at the east and west sides of town, they don't have that issue. So why aren't they developed? And I think that's a big question. If you look at Century Plaza, if you look at the old Sears, if you look at Louisville Road, there's no historic preservation restrictions there. So what's the deal there? I think we need to look at, there's other issues bringing people to Frankfort besides historic preservation. And then the downtown core, that's the one thing we can sell against all the other cities in Kentucky. And forget about the rest of the country. But here in Kentucky, we're the state capital, and there's a reason, and we have the river. Historic preservation should be a selling point here.
Okay. If elected, how would you involve business leaders in board appointments and other decision-making processes in our community?
Well, as a business owner, I'm going to be, if I'm mayor, I'm going to be one of the business leaders making the decisions on who is appointed. And I think reaching out to the people that I work with in the community, I'm going to look to the business community, of course, for certain appointments. If you look at, if it's a board that requires technical expertise, I'm going to look at who has that specific technical expertise. And sometimes we need an attorney, sometimes we need a financial person, sometimes we need a banker. That if we have a gaping hole on a board, that's what I'm going to try to fill. It's not going to be a political appointment because this is a nonpartisan race. It's a nonpartisan city is the way I'm looking at it. We're just looking to fill the right person with the right expertise in that board appointment. And I'll look to the business community as well.
Okay. Do you have a plan to address Frankfort's low-income housing problem? And if elected, would you support a city ordinance which adopts the Uniform Residential Landlord-Tenant Act like other cities have done?
The plan would be we have a lot of vacant areas within the city, and I would look to working with developers and incentivizing developers and looking for grants to build low-income, smaller housing and to fill in some of the gaps, because I do realize it's a problem. I live downtown. My office is downtown. I know we have a homeless population, and I'll do whatever we can to fill there are areas, not downtown, in the surrounding areas, not just downtown, but in the surrounding areas, where we could fill in some housing. The key is going to be the financial part of that. How do we build that and make it good? But if the city needs to invest some money to make that happen, absolutely, we'll look at that. And as far as adopting the ordinance, I haven't read that. I don't know. As a landlord, I'm obviously sympathetic, but we work with all different levels of income. So I'm going to, again, here's where the empathy comes in. I'm going to work with anyone who needs help.
Okay. What do you think the city leadership can do to foster a more partnering relationship with Kentucky State University? And do you support the expeditious completion of the Thoroughbred Trail, which leads from downtown to Kentucky State?
No, second question first again. Absolutely. I can't believe that hasn't been completed yet, the Thoroughbred Trail. I certainly want to complete that because that's part of the quality of life that I'm focused on. It's making Frankfort more walkable, hikeable, bikeable. And I think it does make sense to, I don't know if anyone's, personally, I've never walked up and down East Main Street, but I can't imagine that it's a pleasant experience with 4 lanes of cars driving by you. But I do think making that connection directly to K-State from downtown is going to be significant. And I think when you talk about partnering with K-State, I went to K-State for my freshman year. I played baseball there, so I am familiar with campus, and I know what it's like to be a student there. I think that we need to just make them feel welcome here in Frankfort as a university. I think we need to do more partnering with them on certain programs that will bring more people to Frankfort, not just, I think they have innovative programs. Aquaculture is one of them. That's a program that's going to support the world in the 21st century. And I think that's something that K-State and Frankfort could be a leader in. So I want to let them know, hey, Frankfort, we're innovative. We want to take your innovative programs. We want to partner, and we're here. We want to work with you.
Okay. Well, in 2021, Frankfort will have a new mayor, a new city manager, at least 2 new city commissioners, a new Chamber of Commerce director, and a new director of DFI. Those are big changes considering the gravity of local projects that are underway and coming out of what has been an exceptionally challenging year. So what do you see as the challenges and opportunities that these changes provide?
Well, you're right. And I think it's exciting too. I know it's, of course, a big changeover like that. People may feel apprehensive. We're going to have it on the national level as well. I do think locally, right now, we have the opportunity, when you talk about the COVID-19 crisis as being one, I think it is an opportunity for us to, once we get past it, and once we can take this hit financially that we're going to take, that, coming out of the starting gate right now for a city of our size, I'm excited about the growth that we can have here in Frankfort. I think we're sitting on we all know what resources we're sitting on here. And I think, different viewpoints, it has been a while since we've had, and that's probably why I'm running. We've had the same leadership and we've had the same people, recycled candidates over and over. I think now's the time for fresh perspectives and new viewpoints. I'm excited for that. We have professional staff working in City Hall that do the day-to-day operations. So I think, it is a good time for, again, fresh perspectives. I'm excited about it.
Okay, good. Well, we're coming close to the end, and now's the time where I'm going to turn it over to you and let you directly address the viewers, and so that you can let them know why they should vote for you. Feel free to ask for their vote and tell them where they can find out more about you.
Okay, well, thanks again, Cathy, for having me here, and I can't believe it's already been however many months, and I'm glad to see you on the other side of the primary. And I just want to say, growing up in Frankfort in the 70s and 80s, Frankfort was a city that mattered. It was a city of consequence. And I feel like, somehow we've lost we have low self-esteem now as a city. And I want to help us get our mojo back. I want to become a city that matters again. And I think the number one thing is getting through the COVID-19 crisis. We need a successful money manager that can help us do that. I think the growth, revitalization, somebody who's invested in Frankfort. My wife and I have multiple properties here that we've renovated. I'm invested in Frankfort's future. I think the cooperation is also the number one key right now. We need stability in City Hall. We need someone who can bridge different groups, different individuals. I think I'm the person to do that. And so if people want to learn more, I humbly ask for your vote on November 3rd, or if not before, you can vote as early as, I think, October 13th in person. And I humbly ask for your vote, and you can visit LayneWilkerson.com if you'd like to learn more about my campaign. And it's LAYNE Wilkerson.com. So
Okay.
Thanks again, Cathy.
Sure. Well, thank you. It's really important for our candidates to be here to speak directly to our viewers, especially during times when we can't have regular campaign events. So again, thank you for your time. I know our viewers appreciate it. I appreciate it. To our viewers, I want to say thank you for watching, because it is so important that you get informed before you go make your vote, whether that is by mail or in-person early voting, or just going down to next to City Hall on Election Day on November 3rd. So it's important to get informed so you can voice your choice. That's it for this edition of Meet the Candidates. We'll see you next time.